Over 20 years ago, I came across a very interesting perfume house with gorgeous and striking visual merchandising of red and black, which offered a new way of producing quality fragrances. The head of the company, Frédéric Malle, acted as a curator of scents created by some of the greatest perfumers in the world. Malle's input varied for each scent. He said, "Working with my friends, I wanted them to have their names on the bottles, and I've realized that my job was very similar to a publisher, and so reduced the name to Éditions de Parfum." The aims of the company were artistic, and it sought to correct the anonymity of the perfumer, whom Malle described as being like ghostwriters, who fought to put creativity above purely commercial interests. The Frédéric Malle website today describes the company's philosophy and ambitions. Composing fragrances like works of art by giving free rein to famous perfumers with no creative limits. This is the mission of Éditions de Parfum. From the very start in 2000, Frédéric Malle's avant-garde concept stood out from all the rest. Dominique Ropion, Jean-Claude Helena, Maurice Roussel, one illustrious nose after another reinvented the codes of luxury perfumery. Portrait of a Lady, Carnal Flower, Vetiver Extraordinaire, all of these fragrances have gone down in history thanks to their exceptional formulations. Frédéric Malle was extremely well connected. His mother, Marie-Ette Louis, was a former art director at Parfum Christian Dior, whilst his father, Jean-François Malle, was a film producer who worked alongside his brother, director Louis Malle. Furthermore, Malle's maternal grandfather was Serge F. Louis, who created the Parfum Christian Dior line for the fashion house, with the launch of the perfume Miss Dior in 1947. After graduating, Frédéric Malle worked as Jean Amic's assistant at Roi Bertrand Dupont. Working with Amic, who was behind the creation of Opium and Obsession, he described as his dream job. Malle says of his time at Roi Bertrand Dupont, "There I did really learn how to smell. I also learned the market by heart." Malle continued to accrue expertise in the worlds of perfumery and marketing, and sought to become a go-between for marketing professionals and perfumers, which proved difficult. Malle consulted for Hermès under Jean-Louis Dumas before doing the same for Christian Lacroix at LVMH. Under Jean-Louis Dumas, Malle spent some time at a perfumery school where he learned from perfumers Françoise Caron, Edouard Fleischer, and Jean Guichard. At this point, Malle decided to launch his own perfume house, Éditions de Parfum Frédéric Malle. Let's have a look at 14 scents from this set, which came out 20 years ago in 2006. There's a very nicely illustrated book with information about the perfumers and their creations. I'll bear in mind the ambitions Malle set for his company, excellent artistry, and establishing the name of the perfumer in the minds of the wider public. These are only my opinions, of course. Although the notes are brief for each scent, I took my time when smelling each one. I'd like to know what you think, and which ones are your favourites. First up is En Passant, from Olivier Jacobetti, the elusive scent of lilac. I'm still waiting for it, are you? A lilac scent that really smells like lilac. I know what lilac scents smell like, and I know what the real thing smells like, and they're not the same. I've grown lilacs, and every year when it's lilac time, I take the trouble to smell the beautiful abundant scent that intoxicates and wraps itself around you. One of the most charming sights in Paris in spring, inside the tiniest chaotic little food and wine shop, are buckets of flowery lilac branches lined up for sale near the till. En Passant is a pleasant scent that suggests very clean bathrooms where nice toiletries are used. There's cucumber, which I loathe, but it's cleverly blended out. Then you're hit with the usual hologram of raw soapy coconut that stands in for lilac in all bottled perfumes. I have a cheap one here, and another one from the Erin range, and there's the same issue with both, an inadequate representation of lilac flowers. Marlene Dietrich once said, "Lilac bushes and the living is easy." The perfume can't be caught in a bottle, which is just as well. Next we have Noir Épice by Edmond and Thérèse Rudnitska's son Michel. This one opens with a gorgeous combination of spices, clove, nutmeg, cinnamon, and orange, which produces an addictive effect. There's a sustained note of crushed red grape skin before a very ample fruity rose appears. This is reminiscent of opium rather than cinnabar. In fact, it edges towards another great estee, the wonderful Knowing. I only have good things to say about this scent. It may not be revolutionary, but it's extraordinarily good. Here's Musc Ravageur by Maurice Roussel. This is an assertive scent that's problematic for me. Whereas I smell Kouros as clean, I smell Musc Ravageur as dirty, and not particularly in a good way. I know why I detect dirtiness. There's vanilla, coriander, and lavender, all of which, when they're used in a certain way, give me unfresh sweat. I do like musks, especially clean ones, and there are gourmand elements that seem to disappear and then reappear. I genuinely understand why this was a hit and beloved by many. I assume the much criticized reformulation happened after this bottle. But I suspect this scent was designed to smell like men who haven't seen a shower for a while. To me, the effect is overt, but on others it may be Freudian. Le Parfum de Thérèse by the great Edmund Rudnitska. This was created for Rudnitska's wife in the 50s exclusively for her use, but offered to Frédéric Malle by Thérèse Rudnitska herself. This is an interesting scent that radiates a very pleasant plummy rose note that's anchored by gentle leather, vetiver, and cedar. However, the character of the scent is complicated by the persistent melon note, which is troubling for me. The melon does two things. It produces the fruity floral twang of Wrigley's Juicy Fruit chewing gum and a discordant, earthy, almost savory melon tone. I find this savory melon note off-putting in Diarella and Cristal by Chanel also, but when combined with masculine elements in Eau Sauvage, it's blended out and becomes part of the delicious character of the original scent. This perfume demonstrates precisely why a personal taste is so important. Now we have Carnal Flower by Dominique Ropion. How does this magnificent scent manage to stand shoulder to shoulder with other huge tuberose perfumes like Fracas, Bisons, and Poison? An unusual route is taken. Rather than presenting tuberose in floral perfume form or as part of a bouquet of flowers in a flower shop, in Carnal Flower we can smell the tuberose in the steamy heat of a greenhouse, where it's mixed with jasmine, gardenia, and warm compost. There's eucalyptus from the start, which acts like a switch with the white flowers, causing them to unite and radiate with delicious intensity. The floral accord endures, but we're taken ever closer to the undergrowth and then the warm soil. The effect of warm hothouse flowers is perceptible whether you're on the underground or flying a kite on a hill. It's quite uncanny. Eucalyptus oil is very volatile, and I remember older relatives putting drops of it on boiling water and inhaling the fumes to clear their colds. There's a lot of orange blossom too, and interestingly again the eucalyptus colours the creaminess, adding tremendous sensuality, or indeed carnality. It's interesting that carnal white flowers here are not given a hefty indolic element. This is one of the best Frédéric Malle scents. Here's Lipstick Rose by Ralph Schwager. This is something of an anomaly in the Frédéric Malle range. It's certainly clever, but it's also very playful and frivolous. The Frédéric Malle website talks about a gesture of eternal seduction, this intimate moment when a star, in the hushed comfort of her dressing room, slides her lipstick over her lips, facing the mirror. Powdery scents of violet and iris, two flowers associated with eyeshadows and other makeup products, and whose scents summon the magnetic appeal of an eternal feminine. Showtime. It certainly smells more like rose and violet to me. There's no great effort to add seriousness to the scent with an anchor of austere iris or woods. Instead, there's a circus of fruity lychee and raspberry that doesn't disrupt the harmony of the Technicolor rose and violet. It's as though late 1950s Disney has been brought into the production of a proper perfume. Look at what Disney did to the Alice in Wonderland story, where a very matter-of-fact heroine, Alice, enters a world of nonsense. Compare the illustrations of John Tenniel with the Disney treatment. The treatment is still beautiful and unique, just like Schwager's perfume itself. This violet and rose is very long-lasting. It keeps going, and it's really delicious. Now we come to Vetiver Extraordinaire by Dominique Ropion. This is one of the two Frédéric Malle scents I'm talking about today that I've worn myself. This is a wonderful scent that's a very clear, almost silvery vetiver that's balanced with a woodiness that serves to intensify the austere quality of the vetiver. There are touches of citrus, spices, and incense, but the vetiver reigns supreme. Austerity is the opposite of luxury, but somehow this scent suggests superlative quality and a hint of well-mannered conviviality, perhaps a beautifully appointed modern clubroom with Gothic ebonized wood-lined walls on a wintry afternoon where you can enjoy a single shot of the driest whiskey imaginable. Rather serious but beautiful nonetheless, Vetiver Extraordinaire is masculine, but it would be wonderful and chic on a woman. Our next scent is Iris Poudre by Pierre Bourdon. This is an unusual perfume, subtle but complex. There's an orris heart that's shaded by florals, ylang, violet, jasmine, rose, magnolia, carnation, and fruits, bergamot, orange, peach, and grapefruit. The scent isn't overly powdery, and the iris is subtle too. It's very refined and fresh, with just a little coolness from the woody suede base, as well as a clean musk. Bordeaux is responsible for wonders like Cool Water and Kouros, and some of the creeds from their better days. This is an enjoyable, subtle fragrance that you find yourself returning to again and again for one more sniff. With time, this becomes even less powdery and takes on an almost medicinal note. It's a lovely scent. Now we have Angélique sous la pluie from Jean-Claude Ellena. Interesting. This one starts out like weed killer and then goes into smelling like a well-stocked cellar. Then we get coriander, then a light musky curry, then it cleans up its act. This is a kind of unperfume, very much in the modern manner. I don't get rain or much wateriness, something that's quite detectable in après londe. There's a connection to water via a shampoo scent. Not horrible, not wonderful, transparent, almost not there, rather like something made by philosophy. Next up is Une Fleur de Cassis from Dominique Ropion. This is one of the best scents in the collection. First, let's look at blackcurrants. These fruits are very well known in the UK, less so in the US. Children used to be brought up on the very sweet, tart and fruity blackcurrant drink Ribena, favoured for its high vitamin C content. To my surprise, when I tasted the fresh, unsweetened blackcurrants for the first time, the flavour was a shock. The flesh is very tart with an almost savoury, cheesy taste. The characteristic blackcurrant flavour is concentrated in the skin. In perfumery, the bud of the blackcurrant flower is used. Here is an extract from the Le Labo olfactionary. The absolute is tangy, blackcurrant, vivid green, with an animalic sulphur note. Cassis, the French for blackcurrant, works wonders in this scent, where rose and jasmine combine with mimosa, sandalwood, aldehydes, vanilla and musk. It's remarkable how this scent quickly reaches its characteristic middle and stays there, resonating the same unique floral cassia chord. I find this delicious and singular. Next up is Lys Méditerranée by Edward Fleischer. This scent is built around the floral woody element of lily, blended with what is described as a seawater or marine note. There's a ginger ylang accord that to me is stronger than the lily itself. There's also lotus, angelica, orange blossom, freesia, tuberose with a base of musk, vanilla, cedar and amber. I think my problem with this is that my favourite part of a lily flower smell is the heady clove note, which is rather faint in this scent. I don't hate it, but I find it a bit disappointing. Now we come to Bigarade Concentré by Jean-Claude Ellena. Top notes are bitter orange, mandarin, grapefruit. There's a wonderful rush of invigorating marmalade freshness, and the bitter citrus is somewhat aromatic. But then, as if a switch has been turned, it's all gone, or nearly all gone. There are notes of cardamom, pink pepper, rose, caraway, honeysuckle, grass and hay, cedar, musk and tonka, yet it's hard to detect anything much after a while. This is the orange citrus eau de cologne disappearing act on steroids. It's a little too transparent. It's a ghost of a ghost. Here we have Une Rose by Edward Fleischer. This was created in 2003 and was renamed Rose Tonnerre. Tonnerre means thunder in French in 2021 without reformulation. This is the other Frédéric Malle scent that I've worn. Actually, I can see where the thunder comes from. This is far from a gentle boudoir rose. It has earthiness from pungent truffle and woody ambery animal notes. There's geranium that has a unifying effect on the scent. When I wore this scent about 20 years ago, I was going through a rose phase. It was the perfect rose for a man to wear, better even than the Parfum Rosine Rose d'Homme. Fleischer's interpretation is interesting and unique. I think this one has changed in the bottle more than any of the others over 20 years. I'll talk more about this scent again, as I plan to dedicate a video to roses. The last scent up is Eau d'Hiver by Jean-Claude Ellena. This is a very pleasing scent, rather one which opens with a sort of fight between heliotrope and citrus green. Quite quickly it settles into a slightly almond version of the many violet scents available, especially from perfume houses in the south of France. The dry down is very similar indeed to this Fleur de Provence Violette. These violets are usually very inexpensive. Since 2006, Frédéric Malle has released many more editions. Portrait of a Lady, Geranium pour Homme, which is the only other Frédéric Malle scent I've purchased myself, and more recently, an Amber and Nude Desert collection. The company was sold to Estée Lauder for an undisclosed sum in 2015. Asked what customers could expect from the company after the purchase, Malle commented, Nothing new. Everything will be the same as previously. Maybe Éditions de Parfum Frédéric Malle will become a bit more luxurious. My clients don't have to be worried. I respect Estée Lauder. They know how to treat brands. They acquired a luxury brand and left me leading it. It means that they want to make the best one in the category. Everyone wants to grow up, wants the big future. Me too. I never wanted to be niche. My company was orientated to luxury level fragrances. I create perfumes that can become new classics. I'd rather follow my grandfather, Serge Louis, who created Parfum Christian Dior. Frédéric Malle stepped down from his role at Éditions de Parfum in 2024. Stéphane de la Faverie of Estée Lauder said in a statement that the group will continue to honor Malle's inspiration. Opinions vary on the output of editions in recent years and the new scents. There's a lot of talk about earlier scents losing their character. It's hard to pin down the effects of reformulations unless they're obvious, and it's no easier to find out exactly why Frédéric Malle left. There's no knowing if it was a simple desire for Malle to change direction in life. One fact cannot be denied, however. Since 2006, when I bought these perfumes, they've more than doubled in price, about 40% above the rate of inflation in the same period. I wonder if in 50 years any of the Frédéric Malle scents will abide and become accepted as amongst the greatest ever. If the odds are against this coming to pass, it isn't a criticism of the project, because so few true classics exist from the many thousands of scents created. Even many of the greats don't survive as commercial entities. A fair few of them never see the light of day outside the confines of the Osmothèque Versailles. Are there characteristics of niche perfume output or the model that Frédéric Malle chose that limit the chances of a truly great scent being produced? I believe that quality in terms of ingredients and form are the hallmarks of niche scents. However, truly great scents sometimes have a boldness or assertiveness that defines their uniqueness. If they're not assertively distinctive, they'll be unique and easily identifiable in another way. They're also distinctive, and so they can't be ignored. In fact, some great scents are actually somewhat vulgar or showy. Only two of the scents I've looked at today, Lipstick Rose and Musc Ravageur, come anywhere near falling out of the constraints of good taste. Does the focus on top quality ingredients mean we get scents that truly smell like the ingredient, the effect being a symphony of delicious quality ingredients rather than a more angular, possibly less natural masterpiece? Synthetics like aldehydes radiate brilliantly. None of the Frédéric Malle scents radiate in the same way that Chanel EDT or Ladis does. Perhaps this radiance is considered old-fashioned or déclassé. Isn't it ironic that Edmund Rudnitska spent hours kneeling before lily-of-the-valley plants and flowers in order to replicate their magic using chemicals? The result was the marvelous Diorissimo, which used to have the real scent of lily-of-the-valley. I have a good vintage Diorissimo and was finally able to compare it with real lily-of-the-valley flowers when I grew my own plants this year. The old perfume was very good. Perhaps aroma chemicals had become too refined, too natural. Another problem has faced pretty much all artistic endeavors for decades, the unnerving sense that everything has been done before, and that when every once original line of thought is revisited, it achieves less traction. There is evidence as to why Frédéric Malle's scents, excellent though most of them are, have perhaps fallen just short of the kind of distinctiveness that makes a scent legendary. Recently, Malle was involved in reformulating a range of Estée Lauder classics in the Legacy collection. The Estée website says, "Iconic scents ingeniously evolved." This is Estée Lauder, the creator of indelible masterpieces, Frédéric Malle, the acclaimed perfume editor, who has reimagined our legacy fragrances for the 21st century. Two extraordinary scent artists, 5 ingenious sensorial experiences. Having tried the range next to the originals, I can say that they're very high-quality scents, pretty good in themselves. The only issue is that they're more expensive than the originals and not nearly as good. Sometimes old scents are reformulated to return quality to the scent, as with this Je Reviens Couture from 2004. But in the case of the Estée classics, they may have been tinkered with, but they were still excellent. I came across an interesting quote from Malle, talking about his mother returning from the US when he was a young man, and her bringing over bottles of Halston Z14 and Estée's Aramis, which he loved. He said, "They were strong, they were real perfumes." There's no doubt that Frédéric Malle created a remarkably successful endeavour with Éditions de Parfum, and I have no desire to criticize either the company or the man. Malle is to be admired for many things, including creating a company that brought important perfumers out of the shadows, allowing them to produce some of the best perfumes of the 21st century. It's no small thing to make a profit and employ people, either. There's no knowing how the house will fare without its editor-in-chief, but I wish both Frédéric Malle and the house he created nothing but success.